Oh yes, very nice. Just very. He's a very kind soul. Actually, he's really kind soul. I get scared when I'm
One of those innocent ones?
Very. Yes.
No, you two girls. Yes, sir. You two girls are like street smart ladies of the world.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
It is your job to look out after.
Kendall, you want another one?
Yes, please.
Okay.
You
gotta let him know. I'll take it.
I've heard that from the young gals out there.
No, he is. Yeah, very nice.
And what's his age?
15.
Okay, he's close to your age. They're twins.
Yeah.
He's driving? Really?
Thank you.
Are you driving her around? That's gotta be cool.
Thank you.
Good evening again, folks. Let me get this a little closer.
You, that's great. Where are you driving?
Well, currently nowhere, but usually just to school.
Good evening again, folks. Welcome again, and I hope you enjoyed that wonderful dinner, and we'll talk on that after. I'm Pat Madden once again, and I am the new program chair. So this is my first event that I have put on or organized in that. So if there are any, I did have a great mentor, my wife Nancy, who was a program chair and chapter chair before. So if there are any complaints that I've screwed up in any way,
Wes. Nancy.
she didn't tell me right. So it's her fault. I'm passing all the blame on her.
No one believes it.
Connor's fault.
Connor's fault, yeah. Anyway, I'm pleased to announce our guest speaker tonight, Ben Lecomte. And he spoke here a number of years ago after he had swam the Atlantic, but before he started the Pacific. So I was anxious to get him back as one of my first presenters to find out all about his Pacific swim. So as an introduction, he's no stranger to water and that. In 1998, at the age of 31, he swam the Atlantic, with the first one to swim without a kickboard, and swam from Cape Cod to France. And it took him 73 days. Now it was a drift swim, swimming with the current and that, but I mean, how many people can do that? That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
In December of 2018, he started in an attempt to swim from Tokyo, Japan to San Francisco. And he made it to Hawaii. He swam 1,500 nautical miles, but unfortunately they had some bad seas, and his support boat had irreparable damage to the mainsail in that. So the following year, he returned to the Pacific Ocean to swim from Hawaii to San Francisco and swam across and through the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which everybody knows about. And in that attempt, in his attempt to swim, he did not complete it, but he'll tell that story. But he set a Guinness Book of World Records for a 338 nautical mile swim. I can't say anything more to him about him right now, but I'm going to call him up, and I look forward to a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for having me here and for this opportunity. I am always looking for those type of opportunity where I can share my story and also tell a little bit about what is the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and the big controversy that about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And also, I always jump in the opportunity to embarrass my son. I don't know if you have a young kid, you know, a teenager son and all that, or you used to have one, but you know, oh, Dad, that's not good. I have the mic, Max. have the mic.
Ben, if I could interrupt you, I asked him if he had any embarrassing stories about you, and he declined to do anything, so be gentle with him.
Throw him under the bus.
Maybe it was self-preservation.
Yes.
All right, so let me just set that up here. Okay, so the Pacific expedition started a long time ago. Pat explained that I did a swim in the Atlantic in '98, and after the swim, my first words were never again. But, you know, once you did something, it takes you time to process it, and then the next thing I was thinking about doing something other than swimming in the lake or swimming in the river. So the idea came up of the next one, you know, that's the Pacific. So I work on that, on putting the Pacific together, but I got married and have kids. Yeah, that's you, Max. You're trying to stay afloat. I am beating you, by the way.
That was then.
Yeah.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, exactly. So, and you know, I did a lot of research about what can we do, because what was very important is to use the platform of an expedition and the platform of a storytelling to bring people and to get information, valuable data. So I have a whole set of partners, whole set of institutions, whole set of research partners that were there with us, gave us protocol to follow and to find the right data that they were collecting. But if you look at the garbage patch and you put online image of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, it's basically what you get here. And when you know that the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is the middle of the ocean, you cannot see land. And when you look at those pictures, a lot of them, you have pictures of land, a mass land around it. There is only one picture that is true in that slide, and I will tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay, so the swim started as a swim from Tokyo to San Francisco. And we had two goals. One was to get the attention about the problem in the plastic and to show people what it is, but we wanted to have real fact and data. So we partnered with many scientists, and we had a long list of protocol to follow. Here I just put a few of them that the data that we were collecting and what we're focusing on. We had the debris watch, so we're on the boat and watching at the big pieces of plastic around and taking note of that. A debris drifter biological retrieval, and also it's when you have a big, like a ghost net, they put on a GPS system, so it tracks that ghost net and allow these scientists to refine their techniques as far as current, where the currents are going on that. So we're retrieving that, changing that, retrieving some of the information on that drifter. We focused a lot about microplastic and getting a lot of data, a lot of sampling on microplastic, but we did also microfiber. Microfiber, you know, it's very small. You don't see it with the naked eyes. I will show you how it looks like. Another study that we did for the Smithsonian was the life on debris. They wanted to find out, is there more life in the middle of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch or less life? You know, there is a lot of plastic, but does it impact the sea life or not? And I have the results of that study. And another that was pretty cool, it was with working with NASA, and they did some research about my heart function and how being in a low gravity will impact the function of my heart, and they did also other scanning, crazy stuff. But I will show you this one here. So, okay, I hope I didn't want the sound. So just to show you what it was, I was swimming near a little dinghy. You had the line going down, so that would give me the direction, and you had the boat, that was our support boat there, and everything was happening on the big sailboat. The researchers were on the boat, they were taking data out, they were doing observation from the boat, and me, what I was doing is just swimming, keep on swimming, swimming. So I was swimming about 8 hours a day. And at the end of the 8 hours, I was just dead. Going on the boat, sleeping, eating, and then sleeping more, eating more, and that was the end of my day, basically. No, but here we go. So what you have to understand, people are telling me, well, you know, you are looking at the same thing all day long for 8 hours, the blue background. When you are in the middle of the ocean, you don't see a lot. You see maybe some plastic, you see some fish coming when you have big debris around you, but you don't have a lot. And what I had a big problem doing my Atlantic swim was my mental and my mindset. I hated it. The 73 days I did, I hated it. So I was very cautious to prepare and to do everything I could to have the strongest mind as possible before going. I worked with psychologists, I worked with different people who helped me just zoom and focus and preparing for it. So I know exactly what I was going to do with my mind when I was in the water, and I couldn't go on and do a presentation for 2-3 hours just on that side. But I'm just going to show you what I was able to do during that time and to focus my mind and what it meant. So here it's me stopping. I was stopping every hour to try to get some food in myself and for 5-10 minutes. And you see a row of numbers here. So each time I was stopping, I had the person on the dinghy giving me 10 numbers. Right? And then I was stopping another hour later, they gave me another 10 number, another hour, and at the end of 5 hours, I had a grade of 5 by 10 of numbers. And then the next time I stop, I tell them, so okay, ask me a question. So they will ask me, so what is in H4? And I was telling them 85. Or they were telling me, where is 25? I was saying 25 is on A1, or 25 is on A, I don't know, there's another 25 somewhere maybe. But I was able to use my mind for those 5 hours to create a map in my mind and being able to retrieve the number. It's easy to retrieve a number if there are succession, you can create image and all that, but it's very difficult when you have to recall the number. There are multiple layers of numbers. So just to give you an idea of how intense and how focused I was with my mind during that time, because that was the most difficult thing that I experienced during the Atlantic swim. So, you know, we see the ocean, it's beautiful, it's open, it's nice, it's like that, but unfortunately it wasn't like that. We had 2 big typhoons, so big that we had to go back on land in Japan. So, and we broke the sail, we had many issues with it, and then I didn't break, Mount Alien didn't break, but the boat did. We broke the mainsail, and after swimming 1,500 nautical miles, it's right there at the end of the blue line, we had to go to Hawaii. So basically we couldn't complete the full swim. While we were going to Hawaii, we still did the same collection of data, and I will talk to you more about that. But the idea was to cross the entire ocean to get the same data throughout the ocean. So the following year, went back with an idea of focusing on the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, which is in between Hawaii and San Francisco. But it was a little different there because I thought, and I talked to scientists, and I asked them, is there a particular area that you would like us to be, me to swim and collect data? Because if it was just swimming a straight line and making the fastest run for it or the fastest swim for it, maybe I was going to miss a lot of important location. And they said, if you are willing to do that, we have amazing data that we want to collect in places that we would love you to do. So we did that. So that's why I didn't swim a straight swim like I did in 2018. I went to different points of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Because even though when you think about the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, usually you see a big vortex forming. But within the vortex, you have a lot of eddies and smaller eddies. And they wanted to know what happened at the circumference and some counterclockwise and so on. So we did just that for to get the science that we wanted to get. And like Pat said, yeah, you know, 2018 I swam 1,500 nautical miles. In 2019, 330 nautical miles. But they give me a Guinness World Record for the less mile that I swim, the 330 and not the 1500 go figures. Well, thank you. Now we are going to go down into the data that we collected. I'm going to start from the big picture and go tiny to the macroplastic. So here it's a picture of a satellite picture. One of our scientists is Dr. Nikolai Machemenko, who is the renowned scientist when it comes to studying of current. Usually when you have a plane that is going to crash in the ocean, they are going to call him, hey, what is the current, and do the analysis. So he's working on analyzing a picture taken from satellite and interpreting those pictures to try to get a good read of the current. So here, if we zoom into that picture, we see that's the boat right there, and this is the dinghy. So he asked us to be at certain location, a certain time of the day, so that it will fly, when the satellite flies over, they can have a read of whatever they have. And from us, we will have the drone in the air to get high view of what the current or what we're seeing. People on the boat were doing debris watches and monitoring whatever they were seeing. And for me, I was in the water looking down and looking at all the data that we could get from him to narrow down and to adjust his system. So that's one of the studies. Another one was, that's me? No, okay. The other one is the big debris. You know, we have seen those pictures of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and so full of debris, and you full of an island of plastic. It's called sometimes that you can put your flag on it. Well, this is the biggest debris that we found. We're able to jump and be on it. We could have put a flag on it, but we never found anything bigger than that. But it doesn't tell everything until you look below the surface. We found a lot of ghost nets, and they are pretty big. Some of them are able to take amazing picture with it. You know, you have a full ecosystem around it. So we are doing a picture, of course, but we were changing the tracker. You see that buoy on top is the tracker. We were the panels also that were attached in some of them, we were switching them to other panels. So we're monitoring all that, taking samples from it. And other than big trash like ghost net, we found a lot of fishing gears. For us, it was very important to get picture because we were connected online with satellite connection. We were sending in out picture to try to get as much as possible views and a story being told online and social media. It got people involved. So any type of picture we could find, interesting one, we went and send those pictures and try to make it more enticing. Like finding a tooth for a truck, finding a toilet seat. Okay, that's fine, we can do that. And then I went into thinking about more into what we can do. You know, there is kids here, but okay. And I was thinking, you know, nudity usually helps. And when you put a piece of plastic in front of a nude person, maybe that can help. We have amazing crew members that were free divers and beautiful. I said, maybe we are going to look at that. Well, I wasn't going to ask them to be naked, so I was the only naked here. Are you embarrassed enough, Max? Yeah. Okay, I have another for you.
Ben's junk.
And that's a series that, yeah, I call Ben's junk. It's a crowd pleaser, not everywhere. Usually it's in a nursing home. And what happened with plastic, you know, Max, next one is for you to embarrass you a little bit more. But what happened with the plastic, once you let it go, it goes. So you have to go and grab it. That's a French derriere. But in all those plastic that we found, it's amazing the type of ecosystem that you have, and also the fact that plastic starts somewhere and will end up in the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. At the same time, you have organisms and fish, that frogfish, that end up in the middle of the ocean. That's not their ecosystem. You have amazing fish that shouldn't be there, right? And what was interesting for us is that it was easy to fish when we when we saw a big patch of debris. Usually you had small fish around, you had bigger fish around, and you have the sharks also below that. So we were catching some of the mahi-mahi like that. It was one of our protocols to, whenever we caught one, to remove some of the skin, keep some of the skin for analysis about microfibers, and also to look inside the gut of the fish if you have plastic. So we found plastic in one of the fish. And plastic becomes a way of life over there, because you see plastic in the fish, you see fish inside plastic, and you see a lot of organism growing in the very small piece of plastic. Any type of plastic you find, organism are growing. So now we're going to move a little bit smaller and talk about the plastic when it starts degrading and becoming a microplastic. And microplastic is the piece of plastic that is 5 millimeters or smaller. I have some right here if you want to pass it around. Max? Good. So, again, remember the picture that I pulled from the Great Pacific Garbage Patch and what you had. This is probably the highest concentration of plastic that we found. It looked like that. It's not a floating island. All the little white spots here that reflect the waters are microplastic. And when you put it in motion, it's even much harder to see it. You can find and look at plastic in the water column. You see pieces of it going. You see some at the surface, but it's not highly dense like all those pictures are showing. It's far from it. And you see smaller pieces, but you also are going to see a little bigger pieces. A lot of wrapping paper, like from food wrappers, you see. Very difficult to see them in the water when you swim. And some other ghost net and all that. But that's all we found. So what do you do with microplastic? You cannot really look at it and say, okay, we have a big density of microplastic. We use what is called a manta net or a Newton net that we put in the water. And there is a little opening in front of it. It's about 6 inches by, I think, 3 feet or so. You put it in the water for 30 minutes. You tow it about at 2 knots. And at the end here, the cod end, you collect microplastic and a lot of the sea life that is at the surface of the water. And then the work starts. You have to count all those things. You have to use tweezers and take them apart. So it's a grueling task. I was swimming, I didn't have to do that. But we counted many of them. I will show you a table in a minute. So that's the microplastic and how we determine the microplastic, the density that was sent out to the scientists, the amount that we collected, also some sample that we froze and so on. When you go to the smallest size, it's microfibers. And this is through a microscope, because microfiber are a fifth of the size of a human hair. So you cannot see it, basically. Do you know, by the way, the 2 main sources of microfibers?
Fleece garments.
Clothes.
Clothing is one of them, and the second, I didn't know until I did that. Tires. Right? We don't think about it. The tires are made with rubber and microfibers to hold everything, and every time you turn, it goes and it washes in the ocean. Yeah. So here, just to give you the broad view of what we did, we towed a net 123 times. we counted 43,000, over 43,000 of microplastic pieces, which means that each one of them was handled by somebody with a tweezer in the middle of the ocean.
Wow.
And the highest concentration or the highest count was 3,000, just a little over 3,000, 3,028. So it means that during that 30 minutes that the Newton net is being pulled, you have 3,000 pieces of plastic that we found. Sadly enough, it's when I had the most amazing time, and I will tell you why. The other side is the watches. So we're at 272 watches. They were about the same. It's 30 minutes on the side. The boat, you look at the side and the water, and you look at pieces that are 5 centimeters and bigger than that. And we counted 3,814. Again, it's not the picture that we have seen. Far from it. So I told you I will give you the result of two studies that we did. One of them was with NASA and Dr. Levin. They looked at my heart and they gave us equipment. We had a doctor on board with us that was doing my heart Doppler reading every so often. And he compared with Scott Kelly, who did the exact same study on Scott Kelly. There's a picture of Scott. I didn't take that picture, by the way, in case you wondered. So, what was super interesting, is the first graph on the left, top left. And Dr. Levin was very surprised because he looked at the left ventricle mass. The left ventricle is the ventricle that is pumping blood into your entire body. Right ventricle to your lungs. The lungs, the right ventricle is smaller than the left ventricle, has to do much more work. And he told me, I was very surprised to see that your graph, so it's the top one in black, and Scott Kelly is the blue, has exactly the same slope as Scott Kelly. I was losing left ventricle mass the same way Scott Kelly was using, even though I was swimming 8 hours per day. So he said, what we find out is that the exertion that you were putting on your heart were not that much, because your heart rate wasn't at 130, 40, or 50, 60. It was much lower. So it wasn't enough to counteract the effect of being in a low gravity environment. So I know that right now, whenever the astronauts are in the space, they don't just walk. They want to have their heart rate as high as possible to have the heart pumping and working hard, because if they just go it easy, it's not going to help at all. So that was one of the studies. The other study, I told you I was going to dive more into that, the Newton and the microplastic, is that. So that's after trolling the Newton, it's what you get. It looks, I'm going to focus on it because it looks odd. We don't know what is what. So we have plastic. All those little white parts here are plastic. But it's amazing the amount of sea life that you have. The cell by sea here, the little A, it's all those little jelly organisms that you see around, those guys. The little violet snails are all the little round and darker violet pieces that you see. And here you have some amazing blue dragon sea. You have two of them, one right here and another right here. The point being that it's not dead. When you are over there and you see plastic, microplastic, you see sea life. You see an abundance of sea life at the micro level. And that's the result from Dr. Helm from the Smithsonian. And they found out that in 5 of those organisms they were looking, there is a high level of 3 of them inside the garbage patch and less outside the garbage patch. So, which means that when you have small organism there, you need to have other fish, that will eat them and bigger fish. So it's very abundant into sea life. But how can you determine the piece of plastic from a little piece of sea life? Fish eat them. We saw it open. Also, other organisms and other animals that we have seen, the albatross, going for pieces of plastic. And I don't know if you noticed, but we don't see too many colors of bright colored plastic. And everything that we have counted, they are either white or blue, because they are, you can't see them. The pieces of plastic that are going to be yellow, that are going to be red, the fish are going to go for it. And we saw it. The albatross were going for a piece of plastic that was red right in top. They have other pieces around, not went for the red because it stands out. Whereas the other, they are masked. You cannot see them. You cannot tell them from what is what. So going back to that picture that I had of the screenshot I took, I can tell you that one picture is a clear representation of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. And the reason I know is this one right here, because it's me. I was doing some collecting on a big net, and so even if I have a misrepresentation of what the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is, and that search I did it like a week ago or 2 weeks ago, so it's not something that was there for a long time. It still is there, so there's a lot of education to be done about what the Great Pacific Garbage Patch is. Because if you think of it being a dump site, you say, oh, it's very easy. We have boat and collecting all that dump, but that's it. No, it's at the surface. It's also in the entire water column. It's at the seafloor. So that's the issue there. What can you do? Not much once it's there at the microplastic level. We have to stop it at the source and intervene before it go into the ocean. But I don't want to stop on a sad note, so I'm going to share with you some of the amazing encounters that we had. One of them also, you have to have a shark, right? There's no story in the middle of the ocean if you don't have a shark. So a nice mako shark that we saw here, that's my swim line. So it was just circling around me, just being very curious, checking me out. I said, okay, that's not for me. His legs are too tiny anyway. So went away. Another one, albatross. How can they come? I mean, you try to get a bird around here, they won't come to you. I was swimming, and every time I was stopping, whenever the albatross following me, they were landing. I was extending my fist, boom, they were pecking on my fist, like give me a fist bump. I had one of the wetsuit, I had the yellow on my arm. They were coming and picking on the yellow because that's what they were attracted to. But it's amazing how wildlife is curious when they don't know us, right? Another super cool one was with a booby. It was stuck in a styrofoam. But there, I'm not afraid. They're looking, what? Who is that guy? Or what is that? Dolphins. Usually you cross an ocean, you go into the middle of the ocean, dolphins don't come to you. You jump in the water, they are not interested. Here, dolphins come to us and they play with us in the water. We stayed about an hour and a half, and everybody jumped in the water at one point or another to have that experience, to be in the water with dolphins. Here, another one. Fin whales. Here again, fin whales. At one point we have 3 of them that circled us. That stayed about an hour. The same thing. We are taking turns to go in the water and have the experience of being with a fin whale. The other one is the sperm whale. You remember when I told you the saddest day when we had over 3,000 account of microplastic? That was one of my best days because I was right on their path. So I saw those 2 amazing creature coming toward me. They look like a U-boat, you know. You don't see anything, just blue, and you see those foam coming. And they passed me about 10 meters away. And one was just following me with the big eyes like that. Oh, I'm so small. These people are going. But amazing, amazing experience. And this is when we got much closer to San Francisco, the Farallon Island, and you had a big, big group of seal over there, and they are like dogs. They come around you, they look at you, they keep their distance, but they are very joyful and around. By the way, Max, how do you say seal in French?
No.
How do you say seal in French?
Suck.
So if you drop the F word next